So hopefully by now you've watched my other videos and you feel competent in your recoil control and your aim, and you can burst people down really quickly in multiplayer, but there's a lot more still to learn. Today we're going to be going over movement and peeking, and essentially how to stay alive. Because sure, you can kill people fast, but they can kill you fast too. In order to actually survive, you don't need to give them the opportunity to kill you, right? You need to make sure that you're shooting at them when they're not shooting at you. So first let's talk about peeking and ping in Pavlov. So in Pavlov, everybody's going to have a ping. You can see it in your menu right here. And the higher your ping is, the weirder things are going to be, essentially. If I have 80 ping, that means if I peek around this corner, and that dummy right there is a player, then he is not going to see me until my packet takes 80, or my packets take 80 milliseconds to get to the server, and then however many milliseconds to get back to him, whatever his ping is. Maybe he has 120 ping, so it'll take 200 milliseconds of ping for him to even see me peeking out the corner. And then you have to factor in human reaction time and all that. So that gives me a lot of free time, right, where he's physically in real time not reacting to me. I can peek like this, and he's not going to shoot for a split second, and then he'll start shooting back. That's what's known as peeker's advantage. I can kill him within that short window, especially if he's very high ping, and his response is going to happen after he's already dead. Now, the way Pavlov works, it doesn't just outright kill him and not let him respond. If it did that, then he might be dead before he even saw you. Imagine you have 500 ping and you kill him before the 500 ping is up. He never even sees you. That's kind of bullshit, right? So instead, Pavlov uses a client-side hit detection system, essentially, with some server authority on top as well, like it gets validated by the server or something. Anyways, what you need to know is that when you peek someone and you kill them, they will shoot back, but they essentially, by the time you kill them, the only thing they can do is trade with you, which means they can kill you right back, but you're guaranteed that you're both going to die at that point. So what that means is you typically want to be the one peeking into somebody, because if you let them peek into you, if I'm just standing here on the corner looking off in this direction, and that guy over there peeks out of his cover and shoots me, sure, I can react and shoot at him, but all this reaction time, all the ping, all that time is just wasted while he's sitting there on his client shooting me in the head, right? So you pretty much, as a rule of thumb in Pavlov, never want to let someone just peek into you. Holding a corner just static at a common angle is a recipe for disaster. Maybe you have a 50 cal and you're going to instantly kill them and you feel confident that the ping is different, is not too much, like you can actually look and check their ping and make that decision. But in general, instead of sitting out in the open like this, you want to be behind cover. You don't want them to peek out and see you on that corner. And it's not just about giving them peeker's advantage, it's also about giving them information. And we'll go over that too, because you're going to be using peeks to get your own information that way. So let's think about if somebody's sitting there in the open. If I peek him and see him, I can then weigh my options. I know there's a guy here. I can just sit back and cover. I can pull out a smoke, a nade. I can do whatever I want. But if I peek and he's not there, well, then maybe I start clearing something else. Maybe I'm moving, and then suddenly he peeks me, and then he has the peeker's advantage. It's all about timing. So instead of sitting there and watching it, and maybe instead of even doing this is what's known as a jiggle peek, just sit here for a minute. Wait like 5-10 seconds, peek. Then sit here, right? Peek. Like you wanna surprise them. It's a really important factor. That is, I don't even know what kind of peek you would call this. Is just, you know, a delayed peek. But this should be in your repertoire for sure. This is a very important one. Additionally, you need to know how peeks work and how movement works in Pavlov. So unlike pretty much every VR shooter, Pavlov does not have a smooth move. And what that means is, look at me in real life. Like when I go left and right in real life, you can see there's an acceleration, right? It's like a little curve here. I can't immediately go back and forth. But in Pavlov, that's not true. It's one of the only VR games like this. You just immediately, as long as you have like a joystick and you can move really fast, you can do it with a touchpad too, but joysticks make it easier. You will immediately reverse direction and go full velocity in the opposite direction. And this will compound with your in real life movement as well. So I can move my joystick out and then like jerk my head back, right? Because the body is centered over my head. It has no information about my real life body. It's just assuming that the center of my eyes is the body, at least until we get proper IK, which should be coming soon. So I can increase my speed. There's no movement cap in Pavlov. If I was to be a complete dick and abuse my huge play space here, I could run in real life while running in the game, and it would physically increase my speed. And that is actually a strat you can do in the kill house to get better times by a little bit. Don't do that in game though. It's really exploity. I really don't agree with doing that. But a little bit of movement in game is totally okay and is really fun, right? Using real play space should be a thing. It just feels so cool in VR. So that's one thing you can do is when you're peeking out and going back in, you can use head motion, right? Like use your body and be dynamic about it. So we have a couple types of peeks. We have that delay peek I told you about, one of the most important ones. There is this jiggle peek here where you just like try to expose as little of your body as possible. This is an info peek, but it's less safe. This is a peek where you're essentially saying, I don't care if that guy sees me. I want to know right where he is as soon as he peeks. If you were to do this, there's a good chance you could still take damage. Depending on ping and all that, he still has peeker's advantage when you're doing this. And he might still nick your shoulder. He's probably not going to headshot you, but he might. It's a little bit risky. The higher the ping, the worse it is. But this peek is useful besides just getting info. You can do this with your gun up, and you can take shots at people. Say there's a guy right here. Instead of sitting out here and just like shooting at him and giving him free rein to burst me down, I can make sure that I'm only shooting my burst out of cover, and then I'm resetting my burst inside cover. And it's okay to hit the wall, right? The key is you want to expose as little of your body as possible. You can even be really cheeky. I'm right eye dominant, so I've got about 2-3 inches of my gun to the right. I never do this, but what you can do is you can move your gun and aim with your left eye, and then your peeks are even smaller if you want to be a big brain about it. But you want to be erratic with this, right? You don't want to just keep doing this over and over to kill somebody. Because they're going to time you out, and they're going to figure out what your rhythm is, and they're going to burst you. So instead, you want to do something like shoot, shoot, hide, hide, shoot, shoot. Ideally, you don't want them to figure out when you're going to peek. You want to give them as little of a chance to hit you as possible. You'll see the tracers flying by, and you can try to even time your peek in between their bursts. A lot of kind of mental games that happen at the high level when you're in a really good gunfight with somebody. A lot of stuff like this happen. And you don't have to just play one angle, right? Maybe I have 2 angles I can play. Maybe there's like a guy way over there. I can shoot him here, then I can run over here. I can shoot him here, right? Then I can repeat the same side, go back to the other side. The key is to be kind of unpredictable. All you're trying to do here is make sure your opponent isn't sitting there with his sights on you when you come out of cover. If I peek that side, maybe next time I should peek this side. But if I go back and forth every single time, he's going to figure that out. So you got to be kind of dynamic with that. So that's the jiggle peek. Very strong for gunfights. There's also a wide peek. Now, this isn't something you would normally do unless you kind of know where your enemies are and how many there are. You typically are not going to do a wide peek unless it's one guy, or unless you throw a really bomb-ass flash and flash whoever that you're about to kill. A wide peek is when you kind of go for a sprint here and then come way out. And you're just fully committing at that point. Your opponent may be aiming right here, so you're going to fly past his aim. And let me aim here. You're going to fly past where he's aiming, and he's going to have to overcompensate. He's going to have to drag his gun this way, and he's probably going to miss a bunch of shots, especially if he has a 50 cal. It's really good. So you're jumping way out, and then you just kind of, either full auto or do your burst. Probably burst at that range. But the idea here is that you're fully committing to killing that guy, and you're hoping that he's going to just miss you because of how crazy you just came flying out of this corner. Now, like I said, this is a dangerous maneuver. If there's a guy there and a guy there and a guy there, a wide peek is a terrible idea. Both of these guys are just going to have a free line of sight on me, and they're going to blow me away. Instead, if you're in that situation, you should do the jiggle peek. Try to kill this guy, then kill this guy, right? Then kill this guy. Kind of take them one at a time. You're trying to kind of clear your fire zones sequentially, so you're not trying to engage too many people at once. You can also do crouch peeks, like, if you want to do some squats, right, and get good at that. That's kind of cool. Crouch peeks aren't really good for long range, in my opinion, but up close, if you hear someone sprinting around the corner here, you can crouch and really surprise them, and their bullets will probably go over your head. Now, sprinting is a big part of movement in this game. You may have noticed I'm doing a lot of sprinting here on these peaks. Like the wide peak is a sprint. If you don't have auto sprint on, let's see, player, wait, what is it? If I can find it. Auto sprint. In the input, I recommend auto sprint, but additionally, you probably want to use a button sprint. If you have Steam bindings, you can rebind your sprint button so you're not having to push your joystick in because it doesn't feel good. I've bound my sprint to the trigger, so I just hit trigger to sprint. And that gets rid of the auto sprint delay that kind of sucks for these kind of peaks. You can do it with the auto sprint delay, but you just have to be further back. This sprint button, not only will it allow you to sprint forward, but unlike auto sprint, it allows you to momentarily sprint backwards. So notice how I'm moving backwards with my gun up. Nothing happens when I press sprint, right? It's the same speed. But if I put my gun down if I hit sprint, I get little, I don't know if you can really notice, but I get little bursts of speed as I'm jamming this. Look at how fast I can strafe here with the sprint button versus not using the sprint button, I go slower. So if you get kind of caught out, you can throw your gun down and kind of mash the sprint button to get back into cover. People will use this a whole lot at the high level. Most people will be kind of sprinting around a lot. Like you can hear how often I'm clicking this sprint button to get going. And like, obviously doing it while the gun's up doesn't do anything, but it'll happen sometimes. Yeah, so sprint button, that's for sprint peaks and, you know, sprinting back in cover. There's also like this is called like the warp peak, I guess. It's a sprint peak, but it's one where your opponent can't physically react. This is a type of info peak. Say you have a bunch of enemies, but you don't know where they are, right? You don't want to just do this and die, because they might all be watching you. Maybe you're at a common angle, where at the start of the round, everybody always looks here and will shoot you if you peek. If you want to see where they are, what you can do is you can get a running start, sprint peek, like this. Just kind of tilt your head while you're sprinting, and then jerk back. You're essentially warping around that corner. You're going to go so fast because you're compounding a little bit of real life movement with the sprint. And you don't even need to use the head. You can just sit here and do it. It's just a little less safe. Because if you go too far like that, if you go too far, you're exposing too much of your body. Really, you only need to expose one eye. So here I can just try to expose my left eye to get that info. And you only need to do it like once, and then you run away. Because if you just keep doing this, they're going to throw a frag and blow you up, right? So you would do like one peek, you'd come back, you'd tell your team, oh, there's 3 guys mid, come help, or something. You might do it again, oh, they're getting closer. And then you might wide peek the guy or do something crazy. The key through all of this stuff I'm teaching you is pretty much just be dynamic and try to be fast. Say we're going and we're killing people in here, right? Maybe, like, if you were to just fly around the corner like this and there's 2 guys here, you're gonna die, right? You don't need to necessarily just go flying around every corner you see. Instead, you know, take your time. Like, watch how my red dot kind of clears every spot, right? You want to clear everything. If you over peek like this, instead of trying to take the shot, which, you know, a lot of times you'll get killed because you're peeking and you see that guy and you instinctively want to kill that guy, but his friend's gonna kill you. If you see you're overexposed, just sprint back and reposition. Then you might be able to, you know, dump a flash out there and then peek on the flash, and instead of having to, you know, try to fight 2 guys at once, or you can throw a frag or do all sorts of crazy stuff. Maybe just reposition. Like, maybe I just don't want to fight them here. Peeking properly gives you that info without allowing you to be killed, assuming they don't time a really good frag on you. Another thing I forgot to talk about on the topic of kind of peeker's advantage is just to be careful. Like I said, holding static on a corner is a bad idea. Similarly, if you're against a good player and you're in kind of a common corner, just like sitting, like maybe I'm sitting right here, and in this map, you know, it's a common spot. People know to check this. If I just sit here like this and I'm expecting, oh, if somebody comes through, I'm going to kill them, they're probably going to check. They're going to be looking around the corners like they're going to clear like this, right? They're going to be making sure they clear everything, and they're going to see the side of your body before you see them, and they'll kill you without you even being able to see them. You have to be really careful about just this is called like being a rat, right? This totally does work, just hiding and being sneaky, but only if you successfully catch them off. Sometimes it's better to play the rat, right, like this, but then every now and then try to figure out what you think their timing is going to be, and then peek into them, right? Because remember that peeker's advantage is huge. Just because you're in a corner doesn't mean you're safe. If you can instead, while maybe I'm sitting here clearing this, right? If I could time it right and peek into the guy while he's doing this, he's a dead man because he's not ready for me to do that. I have the peeker's advantage. I can shoot him in the head and easily win. So in conclusion, liberal use of sprinting and being smart about your peeks, not peeking too often and not peeking too much, except for when you really want to peek too much because you're doing a wide peek, is stuff that you should practice. Be good about really kind of switching direction like this, going back and forth, shooting, putting your gun down, shooting, putting your gun down, right, without letting go, ideally. Like, you want to be able to be super dynamic. Even if you're not the most accurate doing this, you want to make sure you can go fast like this, because it gives you the opportunity to physically dodge bullets. If I sprint out and shoot someone, I can get back in cover as they're returning fire, and I hear them shoot 6 or 7 shots. I know their spray is out of control. They have to reset their burst. I re-peek. Then I go back. They return fire, they miss, I re-peek, right? It's all about timing your peaks between their bursts to get the most effective kind of damage trade. You want to kill them without losing as much health as you can, because remember in Pavlov, your health doesn't regenerate. You can't just go around like the Terminator and get a kill and then hide and let your health regen. So yeah, thanks for watching, guys. Let me know if this helped you, and let me know if there's other stuff you would like me to talk about. Bye.